So think about last time you were really, truly bored. No phone, no TV, no music, nothing to scroll through, nothing to watch, no one texting you. How long did it take before you lost your mind? An hour? Maybe two. Now imagine that's your entire life. Not Netflix, no internet, no books, no restaurants, no gym, no games, nothing invented yet. Just you, a fire, a cave, and a whole lot of time. Here's something most people don't know. Anthropologists have found that ancient hunter-gatherers only needed to work about 3 to 5 hours a day to survive. Hunting some time, gather some plants, done. That means that they had more free time than you do right now. So the question is, what on earth did they do with it? The answer is weirder, funnier, and more human than you'd expect. Let's start with a number that blew researchers' minds when they first published it. Back in 1966, an anthropologist named Richard Lee went and actually lived with the hoansi people in the Kalahari Desert in Africa, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups on the planet. He wanted to find out how hard ancient life actually was, and what he found completely shattered the assumption that prehistoric humans were just constantly struggling to survive. The Hoansi spent on average just 12 to 19 hours per week on food. That's it. Everything else, the rest of the week, was free time. A University of Cambridge study confirmed this with the Agta people of the Philippines, finding that had around 30 hours of leisure time every single week. To put that in perspective, the average person today has about 5 hours of free time per day, and most of us spend it staring at our phones, feeling like we're wasting our life. Ancient humans, they had almost twice that, every single day. So they weren't bored out of necessity, they had free time by design. The real question is, what did a brain that smart do with all of it? Here's the first thing they did. It's probably not what you expected. They gossiped, not just casually, not just occasionally, obsessively, constantly, and according to one of the most respected evolutionary psychologists alive, it may actually be the reasons humans developed language in the first place. Professor Robin Dunbar of the Oxford University spent years studying the connection between primate behavior and human language, and his conclusion was striking. Chimpanzees and other primates bond with each other through physical grooming, picking bugs out of each other's fur for hours. It's weird, but it works. It builds trust, it builds relationships, but when human social groups got too large, around 150 people, you simply couldn't physically groom everyone you needed to maintain relationships with. There weren't enough hours. So Dunbar's theory is that humans evolved language not primarily to plan hunts or describe directions, but to gossip, to talk about what, who did what, who betrayed who, who's reliable, who is not, social information about the other people. And studies show that even today, roughly 65% of all human conversations is still gossip. So the next time someone calls you a gossip, you're not being petty, you're being evolutionary. Ancient humans sat around that fire every night and talked about the tribe, who got the most food, who wasn't pulling their weight, who was seeing who. In 2008, archaeologists digging in a cave called Holy Fels in southern Germany made a discovery that genuinely changed what we thought we knew about ancient humans. They found a flute, not a crude, accidental flute, a carefully crafted musical instrument made from the hollow-winged bone of a vulture with 5 finger holes and a shaped mouthpiece. It was 40,000 years old. That means while woolly mammoths were still walking the earth, some ancient humans just like you sat down, took an animal bone, and decided to turn it into an instrument. Not because they needed to survive, but because they wanted to make music. And this wasn't a one-off. Researchers found multiple flutes across cave systems in Germany, France, and Austria, some made from bird bone, some carved from mammoth ivory. There was a musical tradition, concerts by fire, 40,000 years before anyone invented electricity. And here's the part that gets really interesting. Researchers believe music may have given early Homosapiens a significant social advantage over Neanderthals, helping them bond faster, coordinate large groups, and build stronger communities. In other words, music wasn't just entertainment, it was survival, technology disguised as fun. Let's talk about cave art, because here's the thing most people miss about ancient carved cave paintings. There weren't instructions, there weren't maps, there weren't records. Most of them had no obvious practical purpose at all. The cave systems in La Cour in France, Altamira in Spain, contain paintings so detailed, so beautifully composed that when modern artists first saw them in the 1800s, some refused to believe they were real. The animals are drawn in motion, the proportions are accurate, the shading uses the natural curves of the cave wall to create depth. As these caves, some of the most spectacular art is found hundreds of meters inside. In sections, you'd have to crawl through narrow passages to reach. They weren't paintings people looked at every day. They were in places that took real effort to get to. Paleontologist Stephen Kuhn made it simply. These people weren't just surviving, they were choosing to create something that had no survival value. They were making art because it meant something to them. And the handprints, thousands of them across dozens of cave sites, a hand pressed to the rock, pigment blown around it, leaving a perfect silhouette. Some researchers believe this was the oldest known human signature, a way of saying, I was here. Okay, let's get lighter for a second, because ancient humans also just played games. The oldest known gaming pieces ever found are small carved tokens made from the animal bone. Dice-like objects called astragali, carved from the talus bones of hoofed animals. They've been found at sites over 5,000 years old across multiple continents, which means people weren't just playing the same game in one place. Games were spreading, being traded, being thought. And when you look at the evidence from modern hunter-gatherer groups, the games aren't so different from what kids play today. Throwing competitions, wrestling matches, balancing games, chasing games. These even evidence of ancient swimming holes, specific riverbanks where communities would gather, not to fish, not for survival, just to swim. Ancient humans had the equivalent of a Sunday afternoon at a park, which when you think about how much we romanticize simpler times, maybe it isn't that surprising. And then there is one that ties everything together, storytelling. Before writing, before books, before anything, around the fire every night, stories. Anthropologists who study modern hunter-gathering communities have found something remarkable. A huge portion of the even time after the day's work is done is spent listening to one person tell a story. Not a practical story, not instructions, stories about animals that talked, heroes who did impossible things, gods who control the rain. And this matters for a reason that goes beyond entertainment. Psychologists now believe that storytelling around the fire may be one of the core reasons humans develop complex social rules. The stories weren't just fun, they were teaching morality, reinforcing group identity, explaining why some behaviors were acceptable and some weren't. Every culture on earth has myths, every single one, and they all follow remarkable, similar patterns. The hero's journey, the trickster's food, a great flood, because the stories weren't random, they were solving problems, encoding survival wisdom in the format of human brain couldn't forget. And look around today. We still do it. Movies, books, video games, podcasts. We are the most story-obsessed species that ever lived. And it all started with someone sitting by a fire in the dark, making something up. So what did ancient humans do when they were bored? They gossiped, they played, they made music, They painted things that had no purpose except to be beautiful. They told stories that kept their communities alive. They were, in every way that matters, exactly like us. And here's the thought I'll leave you with. We have more entertainment available to us than any humans in history. More to watch, more to play, more to listen to than could fill 1,000 lifetimes. And somehow we still get bored. Maybe boredom was never really about having nothing to do. Maybe it was always about being disconnected from the people around you. And 40,000 years ago, they had that figured out. If you found this interesting, there's a whole lot more where this came from. See you in the next one.